You don't technically need this car. You say that out loud to yourself. You say, I have no space. You say, I'm just looking. Then you click. Then you zoom in on photo number 87 and whisper, oh no. Then you text a friend, the one who always enables you. You say to yourself, this is the last one, knowing it is not. You don't need this car. But maybe, just maybe, this car needs you. Bring a trailer. It's never just a car.
Welcome to People Tech, the podcast of WorkforceAI.news. I'm Mark Pfeffer. Today I'm talking with Tim Wright, Senior Director of Product Marketing at ADP Marketplace. Tim says that with HR tech, it all starts with data. That's not surprising coming from someone at ADP, but Tim has a lot of thoughts about how that data can be put to use and the tools vendor offer to do it. He also gives us a look at how marketplaces like ADP's work. Let's get into all of it on this edition of People Tech. Hey Tim, welcome. But I'm going to start with a general question, which is about integration. And it's basically, can you put integration into the broader perspective of HR technology?
State the obvious here. It really comes down to the data. And I think all data is valuable, but I may be biased, but I like to think that HR data or people data in particular is very valuable. And also it can't be isolated in an HCM product. With ADP, and I've been with ADP for a very long time, and we have over 1.1 million clients. We see pretty much everything under the sun as it relates to what their client needs are for integrations, from the super simple to the very complex to the nth degree. I think data needs to move in and out of an HCM system constantly. And these HR tech platforms need to be able to support the various means of moving that data. It could be APIs, files. What triggers that data to move? Is it on a schedule? Is it triggered by an event? And definition of event for me would be, an employee gets hired, payroll completes, an employee enrolls in benefits, things like that would trigger a data movement, either into another system or be consumed back into an ADP product, say like Workforce Now or Lyric. I think integration it's business critical. It's also, I think it's employee critical as well. Our clients are making financial, organizational, strategic decisions off the data that's in our systems, and it needs to go wherever it is that they need it. I think at the employee level, I mentioned an employee enrolling in benefits. I think I can go into Workforce Now as an employee and choose my medical benefits, but it does nothing unless it gets to the insurance carrier. So I think that's really important. I have a daughter that's a gymnast, and so we're a frequent visitor to the orthopedist. And so if I didn't have my medical coverage, that would be a problem. And other things I think about with integration is this perspective of what I call the center of the universe when it comes to a tech ecosystem. Or maybe, I'll narrow it down, maybe not the universe, but maybe a solar system. When it comes to a customer, what does that look like for them? When you think about a business owner, what their tech ecosystem looks like, is the HCM system at the center? Is it the sun? Or is it a planet? Is it Mars or is it Jupiter? Or is the ERP the center of the universe for that customer? And I think an HCM platform needs to be able to behave as both, depending on the needs of the business or the customer. So I think that's super critical, I would say, from a flexibility perspective, because our customers have a range of solutions with us and with a various suite of vendors, and the data that flows in between. The last thing I'll say, integration is also about options and say flexibility. As we kind of tie it to the marketplace, we've got hundreds, I think about 800 pre-integrated solutions, along with our API Central offering. API Central quick about that. It's a self-service solution that gives our customers direct access to their APIs. So we've built a product and a support model around it. Makes it very easy to get up and running and interacting and self-selecting their API scope and things like that. It's been very successful over the past couple of years. In addition to what we've done with the ADP Marketplace, again, with the scale that we've been able to achieve.
I wonder, does it add management headaches to, HR? Because suddenly they may have several applications that they're using, or is it just kind of transparent?
I would say, maybe I'll try to answer it this way. When we were interviewing some customers about integrations and their experience, and so we found some customers that were, say, 6 months to a year post-implementation or post-go live with an ADP product, both in the mid-market and the up-market, and wanted to get their perspective on what their integration experience was like and what they were using and getting understanding of that sentiment. And as you can imagine, we got a lot of different perspectives on it. One is really I would say from headaches when you talk to someone, say maybe who's a day-to-day practitioner, who's non-technical, sometimes it can be scary. We actually heard the word kind of fear more than once from our customers when it comes to integration, because there's some separation between them and what they do and what they interact with, say with an ADP product, and the data that's moving between ADP and some other system on their behalf on its own automatically. And so that distance creates a little bit of anxiety for them. And so the more that we can give them that transparency, they're going to be have a more confidence that things are okay. What's the status of when did it last run? Was there an error? Did I get notified? Things like that. I think that helps a lot. But I do kind of think about that. And then also we heard in the transparency front, just giving that visibility. There's the classic metaphor that people bring up as using kind of a pizza tracker to kind of understanding, like when Domino's and ordering the pizza, or whatever, pick your favorite pizza maker out there when you online order, like seeing the process and where it is. Just that simple visibility goes miles for giving comfort and understanding of what's happening. But I think the transparency, particularly for things that are automated, and enough information to be valuable, too much can be painful, but enough to give some insight into what's happening goes a long way to reducing that headache. And I also say that I think customers I think with their tech ecosystems, it's a function of their complexity is a function of what they do as a business, and also how they choose to organize their tech stack and their ecosystem. I've seen smaller employers, say 100 employee companies with a pretty complex ecosystem connecting 15 to 20 systems, ADP being one of those, that is way more complex than a client that is an order of magnitude larger, 2,000, 3,000 employees. That could be a factor of just how they choose to run their business and solution preference when it comes to their broader HCM ecosystem, or just the nature of their business. Again, like they have systems that they need to connect to that feed off of people information to run their business. So I think the complexity spectrum is pretty broad, and it can somewhat not necessarily align with the size of the employer. But again, I think those are things I think about because you naturally think that integration, and let's say this is true some of the time, but not all the time, that it gets more complex as you get larger. It's not always the case. And I think our platforms are enabled to accommodate for that. With even our mid-market solutions like Workforce Now, it grows with the customer. It can scale for the simple integrations that are, I would say, expected in the market, to the ones that are a little more bespoke, and we have means to accommodate for that as they grow and have more needs for automation, or they want to do more. And that's really up to the customer. We can accommodate what they're trying to do.
What if an appliance emergency didn't have to be? If your appliances suddenly decided they were done, don't stress. Best Buy has you covered with a wide variety of major appliances from trusted brands, in stock and available now. So you don't have to worry about laundry piling up, refilling the fridge, or that big dinner party you're hosting. Because Best Buy has the knowledge and expertise to get you the right appliance for your home. Learn more at bestbuy.com. Best Buy. Imagine that.
Leading a growing business, it's like building a plane while flying it. Team building, decision making, and scaling all at once. At CPO Playbook, we get it. That's why our podcast, ranked in the top 10% worldwide, tackles the toughest leadership challenges with insights to help you lead smarter and grow faster. Tune into the CPO Playbook podcast because leadership doesn't come with a manual, but we're pretty close.
Welcome to the Hire Her podcast, where women in talent call all the shots. We know, another recruiting podcast, just what the industry needs. Okay, but hear us out. You ever spend hours sourcing that perfect candidate, but they end up ghosting you harder than your hinge date? Or finally, you get that hiring manager feedback, only for them to, of course, say, "Can we see more candidates?" Lame, right? But let's talk about what's really lame in the industry. How is it that 65% of recruiters are brilliant women, yet most of the decision makers look like a convention for middle-aged dudes named Brad?
That's where we come in. Hire Her isn't just another podcast about hiring trends you already heard like 50 times this week. We're here to elevate women in talent, share their career journeys, and make sure they take the lead. Because let's face it, if recruiting is the backbone of every company, why are we still fighting for a seat at the table? So whether you're a recruiter, a talent leader, or just someone trying to swim through the sausage fest of TA leadership, we got you, girl. Welcome to Hire Her, the recruiting podcast where women's voices aren't just heard, but they're leading the conversation.
So subscribe now, because middle management Brad sure as hell isn't going to do it for you.
So when I think of integrations and ADP, I think of the marketplace. We've got all your partners sort of there. What did you just say? You have 400 of them or 800 of them?
800.
800. Okay. So
800 solutions. I think we have some of our partners have multiple solutions. So I think there's, I think it's about 400.
Okay. But that's still a lot. If you're a smaller business, if you're a business owner, or a manager high up in a small 100-person company or something, that feels like a lot for them to try to absorb. Do you think that breadth gets in the way for some small businesses, or are they able to step through it pretty well?
So I'm glad you asked that one. We recently introduced a Gen AI search capability on the marketplace to have a more conversational interaction for our clients to do exactly that, to get to zero in on exactly what they're looking for. We released that back in it was the late spring. It's done very well. We've tuned it based on the conversations that our customers are having with the solution, but I think it's done a really good job. And we watched the conversations and learn and adjust to it, just like anyone and with working with Gen AI today. And I think that's been very interesting to see, but it does kind of help sift through the volume. We also kind of, I think it's important to kind of call it with a marketplace based on, ADP. We have a ton of customers of different sizes. We can also auto segment these solutions. So if there are 800 solutions available at the superset, if you're in the mid-market, it's going to be a subset, a large subset, but that coupled with the Gen AI search capabilities really allows them to zero in on exactly what they're looking for. It's natural language. You can ask it to do comparisons and things like that, and ask for details. So it's been very well, and or it's done very well rather. And I think we've seen some really good usage out of it, and it'll kind of be the way as our customers are interacting with it going forward.
Stepping back a little bit, generally speaking, are approaches like the marketplace growing? I mean, are more people looking for more integrations, or are they leaning toward keeping things simple and
I
sticking?
think it's growing. 100%. I've been with the marketplace for coming up on 4 years. Again, like I mentioned before, I've been with ADP for a while. I had some teams that wrote some of the first APIs for the marketplace going back since we're a little over 10 years old with the marketplace. I think what you're seeing, not only with the ADP marketplace, it's with the industry in general, is a pretty broad adoption of the marketplace concept. ADP's was the first, which I think proved the viability of the platform. And I think the market responded to that. We're seeing a lot of similar approaches to the marketplace concept. I think, again, like with the 800 different solutions, the call volume, API call volume that we see is pushing 6 billion a year with a B from an API call volume perspective, which is huge. But I think there's that expectation of a hyper-connected ecosystem. Clients are looking for options. I mentioned that we were doing client interviews. One of the things I thought was gratifying is we asked them, was like, well, what do you do when you need an integration? And more than one of them, it was a small subset of clients, but more than one, the first thing they said is, I go to the ADP Marketplace and see if it's there. So that we're doing something right. We didn't put any bias into that question. They answered that on their own, which I thought spoke volumes for the mentality of that expectation. So, and others in that interview were asking for more. So they want more out of it. So I think that's something that speaks to the model. Clients trust it. With our partners, what we ask of them as part of the onboarding process, what they go through when they are building an integration to ADP to be published on the marketplace, they have to go through several security stage gates, if you will, to ensure that we as ADP are comfortable with them being on our marketplace. And I think our brand, coupled with that security model, puts a lot of trust in the hands of the customer, or confidence in the hands of the customer, that they are willing to work with us. And we see, we could probably come back and tell you how many clients purchased integrations as we were talking here, just in these 30 minutes. It's probably pretty startling, but I think that speaks volumes. And then simplicity is another one. One of the things with API Central, if I've learned nothing, never underestimate the value of making it easy for somebody to get something. And what we've done with Marketplace, and this extends to our partner ecosystem as well. Let's say you're an ADP customer, you're logged into our system, you're doing your day-to-day, and you go search for a solution. It's pre-integrated. You can go in, select it, buy it, and activate it in single-digit minutes or even less, and have it up and running. The same thing with API Central. We have this e-commerce platform, which I think makes this a differentiated solution from a marketplace perspective. It's so simple. And sometimes it's even a little shocking at how simple it is to be able to go from purchase to activation to in their hands without talking to anybody. And that happens every day in the consumer market and in other B2B spaces, but in the HCM space, you don't see that very much. And I think that makes us a little unique, but at the same time, that simplicity, there's a ton of value there. And again, I think it goes back the market expectations, the customer saying, like, we want more. I was like, I like it. So it's reinforcing.
It makes me wonder if, from the developer side, if you're building software solutions, do you have to worry about the user interface so much anymore? Because if it's all being integrated, and people tend to like single sign-on and keeping things simple that way, are there developers out there who just basically want to feed the utility or the capabilities to you and just not worry about how it presents to the user?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point. We do have conversations about that as we start to think about AI and we think about agents and what is that user experience? There's the traditional user experience that you see in our products today. And we were listening to we had an industry analyst speak to us last Friday, and he made the old analogy about the design of a keyboard, and that's inherently based on a typewriter and its distance of striking the keys on the paper, and has nothing to do with it's an over 100-year-old interaction, and it's a user interface in and of itself. But as we kind of think about integrations and that natural language, there's a human experience design that goes into that for sure. it coupled with automation. But if that starts to evolve to become the way, or a certain persistent paradigm in addition to maybe the traditional user interface, that's probably the evolution as we kind of see it. And you can kind of see in other systems, but I'm a former UX designer prior to my product management career. And I find this very fascinating how people interact and how quickly and comfortably they can adapt. In some cases, in other cases, not. We have enough customers. So whenever someone asks, do you see customers that like this and don't like it? I have to say yes every time, because we'll have them in every camp. It's like this natural progression with this prompt model that I think is very fascinating, and how much can you do with that you were doing through a traditional user interface, say, yesterday. I think that's going to be very interesting to watch, and we're obviously all over that and evolving with it. But I do think that's one of the more interesting evolutions that are happening, is that you think about it being aesthetically pleasing and the time spent on it, and you want it to be naturally intuitive. And of course, that's still important. It always will be, but you can still have those same paradigms in a very simplistic interface. So very curious to see how that evolves over time.
Well, Tim, thanks very much. I want to invite you back so we can talk more about this interface thing and see what happens, AI and everything.
Absolutely, that'll be great. No, it was great. It was great speaking with you. I think this space is moving extremely quickly. I know you see that every day. I think everyone does at this point. But yeah, it was great talking with you, and very happy to come back anytime.
My guest today has been Tim Wright, Senior Director of Product Marketing at ADP Marketplace. And this has been People Tech, the podcast of WorkforceAI.news. We're part of the Work Defined Podcast Network. Find them at www.wrkdefined.com. And to keep up with AI technology in HR, subscribe to Workforce AI today. We're the most trusted source of news in the HR tech industry. Find us at www.workforceai.news. I'm Mark Pfeffer.